A poor popcorn vendor was chosen by a millionaire CEO out of 83 finalists. What she did surprised everyone. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10 at the end. Enjoy the story. Popcorn, fresh popcorn, more addictive than social media and sweeter than an ex asking for forgiveness. Leah Rodriguez shouted right in the middle of Brickell Avenue like she was saving the world, though all she was doing was trying to sell popcorn from a cart that made more noise than a broken-down helicopter. Her sneakers had more holes than a strainer, her yellow shirt was more faded than end-of-month hope. But her smile? Oh, it shone brighter than a digital influencer's teeth. "Mister in the suit, yes, you. The one pretending not to see me," she called out to a businessman picking up his pace. "Your stressed-out face is screaming, 'I need sugar!'" The man nearly tripped over his own tie trying to get away faster. Okay. But when you have a happiness withdrawal, don't say I didn't warn you." Leah laughed out loud, drawing glances from passers-by like she was some kind of zoo animal. That's exactly when Victor Dalmaida stepped out of the most important building in Miami, looking like a grumpy bear dressed in Armani. CEO of TechVision Corp., he had just found out his investors were more upset than a mother-in-law on a honeymoon. "Martinez, listen carefully," he yelled into the phone, waving his arms like a conductor leading an orchestra of panic. "If you can't explain why we lost $200 million last quarter, I'll transfer you to a department so far away, you'll need GPS just to find the bathroom." Victor was so caught up in threatening poor Martinez that he didn't realize he was holding a box of important documents, like it was a bouquet of flowers. And then Miami played a little trick. A gust of wind, one of those that only show up when you're in a hurry, swept down the avenue like a hurricane. Victor's box flew open and papers went flying everywhere. "Son of a..." Victor yelled, cutting himself off when he saw his secret reports flying through the city like lost pigeons. Profit charts fluttered in the air. Multi-million-dollar contracts did somersaults. And Victor? He ran down the sidewalk like a madman, trying to grab everything at once, looking like a juggler who had completely lost control. "Come back here for heaven's sake," he shouted at one sheet heading toward a storm drain. That's when Leah saw it and nearly choked from laughing so hard. "Oh my goodness," she laughed, leaving her cart behind. "You look like a dog chasing its own tail, except the tail is made of paper." Without a second thought, Leah jumped into rescue mode. She ran, slid, and darted along the sidewalk like she was on a crazy dance floor, catching papers in the air with the skill of a baseball player. "Got it!" she shouted, leaping to catch one just before it became pigeon lunch. This one almost turned into wedding confetti. Victor stopped in his tracks and stared at her, completely confused. A girl was literally flying down the sidewalk, laughing like crazy, catching his top-secret documents like it was the most fun thing in the world. Are you helping me or making fun of me?" he asked, out of breath. "Helping you. 2 people grabbing papers is better than 1. Leah laughed, handing him a stack of documents. "Besides, you look like a penguin trying to fly." "A penguin trying to fly?" Victor repeated, stunned. "Yes, lots of effort, 0 results, but very entertaining to watch." Leah laughed so hard that Victor felt the corners of his mouth twitch. By the time they'd gathered all the papers, Victor felt like he'd run a marathon. Leah, on the other hand, was glowing, like she'd just won the lottery. "Wow, you sweat a lot," she said, noticing how soaked Victor was. "You should exercise more, or at least chase flying papers more often." Victor stared at her, shocked. No one talked to him like that. I go to the gym," he muttered defensively. "The gym doesn't count. Machines do all the hard work there." Leah chuckled, heading back to her cart. "You need real exercise, like pushing a popcorn cart uphill." She started making a fresh bag of popcorn, humming softly. "What are you doing?" Victor asked, fascinated by her calmness. "Making your stress medicine," Leah replied, filling the bag to the top. "You're more tense than a badly tuned violin string." "I don't need," Victor started to protest. "Of course you do. Just look at your face." Leah pulled a dramatic face, mimicking his grumpy expression. "You look like you just sucked on a sour lemon." Despite himself, Victor let out a laugh. A real laugh, straight from the belly. "There, now you look human." Leah grinned, holding out the little paper bag. This is happiness popcorn, my grandma's secret recipe. Secret recipe? Victor raised an eyebrow. Yep, she put love into every kernel. Leah winked. She also added sugar, but love was the main ingredient. Victor took the bag, feeling its warmth through the paper. When was the last time someone gave him something without expecting anything in return? When was the last time someone made him laugh like that? How much do I owe you? He asked, reaching for his wallet. Nothing. It's on the house. Leah waved dramatically. Or better yet, on the sidewalk. I can't just take it for free. Sure you can. You gave me the best entertainment of the day. Leah laughed. Seriously, you chasing those papers was better than Netflix. Victor popped a piece of popcorn into his mouth. It was perfect, sweet, crunchy, made with care. This is really good, he admitted. I know, Leah said proudly. My popcorn has healed broken hearts, anxiety attacks, even emotional drama. Emotional drama? Victor chuckled. Yeah, when life gets you down and you just can't seem to reach happiness. My popcorn fixes that. Leah gave him a playful wink. Victor laughed again, a strange and wonderful feeling spreading through his chest. Well, I should get going, he said, still smiling. Go on then, be important. Leah gave a theatrical wave. But if you ever need more joy, you know where to find me. I'll be right here, saving the world one popcorn at a time. Victor walked back toward the building, but couldn't resist looking over his shoulder. Leah was already shouting again. Popcorn, popcorn more addictive than a text from your crush. He shook his head, chuckling softly. That girl was completely nuts. And for the first time in years, Victor Dalmeida didn't think that was such a bad thing. What he didn't know was that as he walked away, Leah was watching him, biting her lip thoughtfully. Who is that guy? She murmured. And why does he look like he needs a hug and a good laugh? She shrugged and went back to yelling. Popcorn. Fresh popcorn. Cheaper than therapy and just as good. 3 hours after the flying paper episode, Leah was counting the day's money when her phone rang. An unknown number flashed on the screen, and she almost didn't answer. It was probably another scam trying to sell health insurance for pets. Hello? She said, still sorting coins. Leah Rodriguez? A woman's voice, cool and professional, like the air conditioning at the mall. Speaking. If you're selling something, all I've got is popcorn. My name is Amanda, from the Human Resources Department at Tech Vision Corp. We'd like to invite you for a job interview tomorrow at 2 p.m. Leah nearly dropped the phone. Sorry, what? Tech Vision what now? Tech Vision Corporation, the largest tech company in the region. We're currently looking for candidates for the position of personal assistant to the CEO. Leah looked around, half expecting to see a hidden camera crew. Ma'am, I think you've got the wrong number. I sell popcorn on the street. There's no mistake, Miss Rodriguez. You were personally recommended. May I confirm your attendance? Recommended by who? I don't even have a resume. I barely know how to use Excel. That will be evaluated during the selection process. Can I confirm your presence? Leah paused for a few seconds, trying to process everything, then burst into laughter. Okay, what's the prank? My cousin Roberto's behind this, isn't he? Just tell me I fell for it. Miss Rodriguez, this is not a prank, it's a real job opportunity. The voice remained calm and professional. Leah stopped laughing. Wait, are you serious? Completely serious. The address is 1450 Brickell Avenue, Office Tower, 47th floor. Leah nearly choked. That was the same building where she'd helped that stressed-out man with the flying papers. And how much does it pay? She asked, a little hesitantly. When Amanda told her the amount, Leah had to grip her popcorn cart to keep from fainting. It was more money than she made in 6 months. I'll be there, she stammered. Perfect. Please wear business attire. See you tomorrow. Amanda hung up, leaving Leah staring at her phone like it had just come from outer space. Mom, she whispered to the sky, if you're up there pulling strings, I'm gonna find out. The next day, Leah stood in front of the mirror in her tiny apartment, trying to figure out what on earth counted as business attire in her closet. She had 3 options: the least ripped pair of jeans, a black blouse that wasn't stained with popcorn, and a blazer she bought on clearance 2 years ago and never wore. Well, she told her reflection, at least I don't look like I'm selling churros. She slipped on the only closed-toe shoes she owned, a pair of brown loafers that made noise when she walked, and left home praying she wouldn't embarrass herself. When she got to Tech Vision Corp, Leah had to tilt her head all the way back to see the top of the building. It was huge, all covered in mirrored glass, looking more like a spaceship than an office. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. "They probably make more in a day than I do in a lifetime." The lobby was even more intimidating. Marble everywhere, movie set-style plants, and a receptionist who looked like a magazine model. "Leah Rodriguez here for an interview," she said, trying to sound confident. The receptionist gave her a quick once-over, clearly judging the noisy loafers and clearance sale blazer. 45th floor. Elevator to the right. When the elevator doors opened on the 45th floor, Leah felt like she had stepped onto another planet. The air smelled like expensive perfume and ambition. And there were women everywhere. Beautiful women. Perfect women. Women who definitely knew how to use Excel. "Oh my God," Leah whispered, counting silently. There had to be at least 80 candidates there. All in high heels, all dressed in outfits that probably cost more than her rent, all with resumes likely thicker than the Bible. And there she was, smelling like kettle corn and wearing noisy loafers. "Are you here for the assistant position too?" a perfect blonde asked, looking at her with thinly veiled curiosity. "I think so," Leah answered, still in shock. "Interesting," the blonde murmured, clearly meaning interesting in the "what a joke" kind of way. Leah sat down in a corner chair, trying to make herself invisible. Around her, the other candidates were talking about their qualifications, like they were in a competition for the most impressive resume. "I have an MBA from Harvard and speak 5 languages, said a brunette with glasses. "I was the CEO's assistant at Goldman Sachs for 3 years, added a redhead. "I launched 3 startups before turning 25, another one chimed in. Leah looked down at her hands, which always smelled like popcorn, and wondered what on earth she was doing there. That's when she noticed someone watching her. Behind the mirrored glass of a meeting room, a man was observing. She couldn't see his face clearly, but there was something familiar about the way he stood. "Candidates, please line up," announced an elegant woman who had to be Amanda. "The interviews will be one-on-one. Each will last 15 minutes. All 83 women lined up like soldiers, flawless, confident. Leah was last, of course, because she had no idea how corporate protocol worked. As she waited, she watched the others coming out of the interview room. Some looked confident, others nervous, but all of them seemed like they belonged. Like they were made for this world of glass and marble. "What am I doing here?" she murmured to herself. But something strange was happening. With every woman who left the interview room, the man behind the mirrored glass kept watching. And when Leah looked in that direction, she had the feeling those eyes were focused on her. "Leah Rodriguez?" Amanda finally called. It was her turn. Leah stood up, her loafers making a loud noise on the marble floor. Every other candidate turned to look at her, some with pity, others with curiosity, all clearly thinking the same thing. What is that girl doing here? As she walked toward the interview room, Leah had no idea that behind the mirrored glass, Victor Dalmaida was watching her every move with a slight smile. He had recognized the popcorn girl the moment she stepped onto the floor. He was the one who told Amanda to call her. He was the one who made this opportunity happen. And now, seeing her there, out of place but brave, Victor was sure he'd made the right call. The other 82 candidates had perfect resumes, but none of them had what Leah had in abundance: humanity. "Let the show begin," Victor murmured, adjusting his tie. He could hardly wait to see how she would handle the most important interview of her life. Leah walked into the interview room like a fish trying to swim on dry land. The table was enormous, polished like a mirror, and 3 spotless executives were waiting for her with expressions that ranged from skeptical to mildly intrigued. "Please, have a seat," Amanda said, pointing to a chair that looked more expensive than Leah's entire apartment. "Thank you," Leah replied, a little too loudly, her nerves making her voice echo through the room. As she sat down, her old bag made a strange noise against the leather chair. "So, Miss Rodriguez," began a bald man with gold-rimmed glasses, "tell us about your work experience." Leah blinked a few times as if she were translating the question in her head. "Well, I've been selling popcorn for 5 years. I'm kind of a street entrepreneur," she said, trying to sound professional. "I run my own business, manage inventory, do customer service, Word-of-mouth marketing. The three executives exchanged glances. Amanda jotted something down, probably not qualified. "And what's your experience with office software?" asked a woman with her hair pulled back into a bun so tight it looked painful. "Software? Oh, you mean the computer." Leah smiled in relief. "I know how to use Facebook, WhatsApp, and I've used Word a few times. Once I even figured out how to change the font." The bald man coughed to hide a laugh. "And how's your English? This is an international company." "Oh, my English is very good," Leah answered proudly. "I speak English very well, actually." Only she pronounced actually like the Portuguese word atualmente, which made the executives blink in confusion. "Perfect," murmured the woman with the bun, clearly being sarcastic. That's when Leah gestured to make a point and knocked over the glass of water on the table. Water spilled everywhere, soaking important papers and making a loud splashing sound. "Oh my goodness," Leah shouted, jumping from her chair. "I'm so sorry. I'm kind of clumsy." She tried to dry the water with the sleeves of her blazer but only made it worse, spreading the mess further across the table. "Don't worry," Amanda said coldly, calling the assistant to clean it up. "I really am sorry," Leah repeated, sitting back down, her face bright red. "My grandma always said I had banana hands. I always drop things." "Banana hands?" repeated the bald man, genuinely confused. "Yeah, like when bananas get too soft and slip out of your hand. It's kind of like that." The executive sat in silence, trying to process the strangest comparison they'd ever heard in a job interview. "Well," Amanda continued, clearly wanting to wrap things up, "why would you like to work at TechVision?" Leah took a deep breath, trying to collect herself. "Look, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know this company existed until yesterday. But from what I found on Google," she emphasized her research, "you do important stuff with technology. And I like important things. Like popcorn. It makes people happy." The woman with the bun rubbed her temples. "And your salary expectations?" asked the bald man, clearly just going through the motions. "Expectations? Oh, you mean how much I'd like to earn?" Leah smiled. "Well, anything more than what I make selling popcorn is already a blessing. You do pay in real money, right? Not Bitcoin or some digital thing?" At this point, Amanda was clearly holding back a laugh of desperation. "Any other questions?" the woman with the bun asked, checking the time. "Actually, I have a question for you," Leah said, opening her worn-out bag. "Would you like to try my popcorn? I brought it to thank you for the opportunity." She pulled out 3 small bags of popcorn and placed them on the wet table, like it was the most natural thing in the world to bring popcorn to a job interview. "It's homemade. Made with care. My secret recipe." The 3 executives looked at the popcorn bags like they were ticking time bombs. "That's very kind of you," Amanda said, clearly unsure how to respond. "Go ahead. Try it. Popcorn always breaks the ice," Leah insisted, sliding the bags toward them. What she didn't know was that, behind the mirrored glass, Victor Dalmeida had been watching everything, a growing smile on his face. While his team clearly thought she was a joke, he saw something entirely different. Authenticity, courage, the ability to be herself, even in an intimidating situation. When the interview finally ended, Leah walked out with a smile, waving at the executives like they were old friends. "Bye. It was a pleasure meeting you all. I hope you enjoy the popcorn." As soon as she left, the 3 executives looked at one another. "Well," said Amanda, "I think we can cross her off the list." "Definitely," agreed the woman with the bun. "I've never seen anything so unexpected." "Poor thing," murmured the bald man. "She seemed like a nice person, but clearly not the right fit." They were absolutely sure Leah Rodriguez would be eliminated before she even got home. What they didn't know was that Victor had made his decision the moment she offered popcorn as a thank you. The next day, when Amanda called with the results, her voice was trembling with disbelief. "Leah Rodriguez? Congratulations. You've been selected for the position." On the other end of the line, Leah almost fainted. And at TechVision Corp., 3 very confused executives were still trying to understand how the popcorn girl had landed the dream job. The answer was in a room on the 47th floor, where Victor Dalmeida was smiling to himself, already imagining how interesting it would be to work with someone who handed out popcorn during job interviews. "This is going to be fun," he murmured, looking out the window. Leah Rodriguez's first day at TechVision Corp started with her getting lost in the maze of hallways on the 47th floor. Holding a hand-drawn map, Amanda had quickly scribbled on a piece of paper. Room 17. Room 17, she mumbled, walking past the same hallway for what felt like the 15th time. This place is huge, like a mall without the stores. Every hallway looked the same. Glass walls, gray carpet, and people in suits rushing by with serious faces. Leah felt like a kid lost in a supermarket, except instead of looking for her mom, she was trying to find her desk. "Excuse me," she stopped a stylish woman in high heels. "Do you know where room 17 is?" The woman looked her up and down, taking in Leah's simple dress and faux leather bag. "And who are you?" she asked, as if Leah were from another planet. "Leah Rodriguez, new assistant," Leah said cheerfully. "First day." The woman raised an eyebrow, clearly doubting someone like Leah could work there. "Room 17 is down the hall, to the right," she said coldly, then walked off, whispering something to a colleague. Leah followed the directions and finally found a door marked 17. Without knocking, after all, it was her new office, she walked in with a smile. "Good morning. I'm Leah, the new," she stopped mid-sentence. Sitting behind a large desk was a man in his mid-60s, with neatly combed gray hair and a suit that probably cost more than a car. He looked at her in pure shock. "Sorry, sir," Leah said, having no idea who he was. "I think you're in my office. But no worries. Finish up with the cleaning, and I'll wait outside." The man blinked several times as if he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. "Cleaning?" he repeated slowly. "Yeah, I know you probably have a schedule for tidying up the offices. My desk must be a mess. It's my first day and all." Leah smiled politely. "Have you worked here long? This place must be a nightmare to keep clean." The man kept staring at her, his mouth slightly open. I'm not part of the cleaning staff," he finally said. "Oh, sorry. So you're with maintenance then? Here to fix something?" Leah looked around. "Everything seems to be working just fine to me." "I'm Charles Blackwood," he said, standing up slowly. "Chairman of the board at TechVision Corporation." There was a deafening silence. Leah blinked once, then twice, then her face turned bright red. "Oh my goodness," she whispered, covering her face with both hands. "I just called the chairman the cleaning guy." "You did," Charles confirmed, though there was a twinkle in his eye. "I can resign right now," Leah said, mortified. "Or you can fire me, or I can jump out the window." "That won't be necessary." Charles chuckled softly. "Although this is the first time in my 40-year career that someone mistook my office for a supply closet." "I'm a walking disaster," Leah groaned. "My mom always said I had the gift of speaking before thinking." "Your mother sounds like a wise woman," Charles smiled. "And you must be the famous Leah Rodriguez everyone's been talking about." "Famous for the wrong reasons, I guess," she muttered. "You know," Charles said, sitting on the edge of his desk, "in 4 decades in this business, I rarely meet someone as genuine as you." "Genuine is a nice way of saying clumsy," Leah sighed. "Maybe, or maybe it's exactly what this company needs." Before Leah could reply, the door opened and Amanda rushed in, stopping suddenly at the scene before her. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm so sorry. I was just looking for Miss Rodriguez." "She found me first," Charles smiled. "Or rather, she walked into my office and offered to wait while I finished cleaning." Amanda turned pale. "Oh no." "Oh yes," Leah confirmed, wishing the floor would just open up and swallow her whole. "Miss Rodriguez," Charles said as he stood up, "allow me to escort you to your real office. It's the least I can do after taking over your room by mistake." He offered his arm like a gentleman, and Leah, still mortified, accepted. As they walked through the hallways, every employee stopped to watch the surreal scene, the chairman of the board escorting the new hire as if she were royalty. "This is going to be legend," someone whispered. "She called Blackwood a janitor," another person muttered, shocked. "How has she not been fired yet?" a third voice asked. The buzz spread through the building like wildfire. Within minutes, the whole company had heard about the new assistant's epic blunder. When they finally reached the real room 17, which was much smaller and far less impressive, Charles said goodbye with a smile. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Rodriguez. I'm sure your time here will be interesting." As soon as he walked away, Leah dropped into her chair and buried her face in her hands. "First day, and I'm already a joke," she groaned. What she didn't know was that, 3 floors up, Victor Dalmeda was listening to Charles retell the story, laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. "She really thought you were the cleaning guy?" Victor asked, wiping his eyes. "And she even offered to let me finish my work while she waited," Charles laughed. "Victor, in all my career, I've never seen anything like it. That girl is refreshing." Victor smiled, looking out the window toward the lower floor. "She's special," he murmured. "Special doesn't even cover it," Charles agreed. "She's got the courage to be herself in a world full of people trying to be someone else." Meanwhile, in the halls of Tech Vision, the name Leah Rodriguez was on everyone's lips. Some laughed with scorn, others with disbelief, but everyone was talking about her. And in the middle of all that chaos, Victor Dalmeda felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: genuine curiosity about what might happen next. Because one thing was certain, with Leah Rodriguez around, the usual office routine was officially over. And for the first time in years, that didn't bother him one bit. 2 weeks after the Charles Blackwood, the janitor incident, Leah was just beginning to settle into Tech Vision's routine when Amanda showed up at her desk with a look that was half panic, half resignation. "Leah, I need to talk to you," Amanda said, holding a folder like it was a shield. "Hi, Amanda. If this is about me mistaking the break room for the meeting room yesterday, I already apologized to everyone." "It's not about that," Amanda sighed. "We have a situation. The company has been invited to the Miami Children's Hospital Charity Gala. It's a big event. Politicians, business leaders, the press." "That's great. You guys are going to donate a lot of money then?" "Yes, but the problem is we need someone to represent Tech Vision at the event." Leah waited for her to go on, but Amanda just stood there, looking at her with a strange expression. "And?" Leah prompted. "And you've been selected." Leah blinked several times. "I've been what now?" "You're going to represent the company at the gala tomorrow night." "Tomorrow night?" Leah shouted, loud enough for half the office to turn and look. "Amanda, I don't even know what a gala is. I thought it was a kind of fruit. It's a fancy dinner with important people." "Important people?" "I can barely talk to the cafeteria staff without messing up." Amanda rubbed her temples. "Those were direct orders. You're going. End of discussion." "But I don't have anything to wear. I don't even know how to act. I don't know how to use a salad fork." "A salad fork?" "Yeah, those tiny ones on the left that no one knows what they're for." Amanda checked her watch. "You have 24 hours to get ready. Good luck." And with that, she left Leah in full-blown panic mode. That night, Leah ran to Donna Carmam's house, the neighborhood seamstress who fixed clothes in her backyard. "Donna Carmam, you have to save me," Leah pleaded. "I need a dress for a fancy event tomorrow." Donna Carmam, a 70-year-old woman with more energy than a Ferrari engine, looked Leah up and down. "Girl, with that little time? Are you out of your mind? Please, I'll pay whatever you want." Donna Carmam sighed and walked over to an old wardrobe, pulling out a slightly faded black dress. "It was my daughter's, but she got tired of it. Let's give it a makeover." The two of them spent the whole night sewing, adjusting, improvising. The final result was creative. The black dress got a few shiny appliques that Donna Carmam had saved, a waist sash made from a vintage scarf, and little touches that made it one of a kind. "It's not perfect, but it was made with love," Donna Carmam declared at 6 in the morning. "It's beautiful. Thank you, Donna Carmam." The next evening, Leah arrived at the Fontainebleau Hotel feeling like Cinderella, except more like a Cinderella who got dressed at a department store clearance sale. The ballroom was stunning. Huge chandeliers, tables decorated with flowers that probably cost more than her monthly salary, and people who looked like they stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Leah Rodriguez, Tech Vision Corporation," she said to the receptionist, who checked the list twice before handing her a wristband. As soon as she stepped into the ballroom, Leah felt like a penguin at a peacock convention. Everyone seemed to know exactly where to stand, what to say, how to hold their champagne glasses without spilling. "You must be the representative from Tech Vision," said a voice behind her. Leah turned around and nearly choked. A very elegant man, gray hair, movie star smile. "I'm Ricardo Mendez, CEO of Innovatech, your competition," he said with a charming smile. "Oh, hi, I'm Leah, and, wait, competition? Like enemies?" Ricardo laughed. "Not exactly enemies, more like friendly rivals. Just then, a waiter walked by with a tray of champagne. Leah grabbed a glass, but as she turned to keep talking, she bumped into someone. Splash! The champagne went straight onto the white shirt of a distinguished-looking man with a mustache. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," Leah cried out, trying to dry the man's shirt with a napkin. "Don't worry, it happens," the man said calmly. "Minister Rodriguez," Ricardo whispered quietly, "that's the Minister of Finance." "Minister?" Leah shouted, making half the room turn around. "Mr. Minister, I'm so awful. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. I'll buy you a new shirt." The minister laughed. "My dear, in 30 years of politics, this is the first time someone has apologized so sincerely. Usually people pretend it didn't happen." During dinner, Leah made every etiquette mistake possible. She used the wrong forks, spoke too loudly, and when she saw waiters passing by with appetizers, she couldn't help herself. "Guys, they have coccinha," she exclaimed, getting up from the table. "Excuse me, I have to grab one before they're gone." She walked over to the tray and started chatting with the waiter like they were old friends. "These coccinhas are amazing. Who made them?" "The hotel chef, ma'am. Tell him they're fantastic, better than the ones from the corner near my house." People around her started laughing, but it wasn't a mean kind of laughter. It was the kind that comes from enjoying someone's genuine spirit. When Leah returned to the table with a small plate full of snacks, she found Ricardo looking at her with admiration. "You are refreshing," he said. "I'm a disaster," Leah replied, offering him a coccinha. "A delightful disaster." What Leah didn't know was that someone had filmed the coccinha moment and posted it online. Within hours, the video titled "Executive Eats Coccinha at Charity Gala" was going viral. The comments were hilarious. "She's all of us in real life. Finally, someone normal at a fancy event. I want to be her friend." Back at his apartment, Victor watched the video for the 10th time, shaking his head with a smile on his face. "She managed to bring some realness to an event that's usually faker than a $3 bill, he murmured. His phone rang. It was Charles Blackwood. "Victor, did you see the video?" "I did. The girl became a national meme in 24 hours. "I know. Is that good or bad for the company?" Victor looked at the video again, watching Leah chat with the waiter, making everyone around her laugh. "Honestly, Charles, I think it's the best thing that's ever happened to our corporate image." And for the first time, Victor Dalmeida realized he was completely fascinated by a woman who could turn any formal event into a backyard party. The problem was, he wasn't the only one who had noticed. The morning after the Coccinha Gala, as it was already being called online, Leah arrived at the office expecting to be fired. After all, she'd gone viral for eating finger food at a fancy event. It didn't seem like the kind of publicity a serious company would want. But when she got to her desk, she found something unexpected. A cream-colored envelope with no name on it, just sitting on her keyboard. "How strange," she whispered, looking around to see if anyone was watching her. She opened the envelope carefully and almost fainted when she saw what was inside. An official offer letter for a transfer to the Public Relations Department, with a salary exactly twice what she was currently making. "This can't be right," she whispered, reading the document 3 times. But there was more. A small handwritten note in elegant script said simply, "You have something none of the other 83 had." Leah felt her heart race. Someone had remembered the 83 candidates from the interview. Someone who had been there. Someone who... "Victor," she murmured, instinctively glancing up toward the upper floors. "Did you say something?" asked Jennifer from the next desk, clearly trying to see what Leah was reading. No, just talking to myself." Leah quickly folded the papers and slipped them into her bag. For the rest of the day, she couldn't focus on anything. She kept thinking about the note, wondering if it really meant what she thought it did. Could it be possible that Victor Dalmeida, the CEO of the company, was paying attention to her? "This is crazy," she said to herself. "He probably doesn't even know I exist." But deep down, a small spark of hope kept glowing. 3 floors up, Victor was having his toughest day since becoming CEO. The meeting room was filled with angry executives, all talking over each other about the croquette incident. "Victor, this is unacceptable," declared Margaret Thompson, the marketing director, slapping a folder on the table. "The company has become a joke on social media." "One of our employees is in memes," added Robert Kim from finance. Memes, Victor. Our corporate image is ruined. She needs to be fired immediately, said Amanda from HR, before she causes more damage. Victor stayed quiet, looking out the window. Down below, he could see Leah heading out for lunch, walking with that cheerful stride he had come to recognize. Victor? Margaret pressed. Are you listening to us? I'm listening, he said calmly, without turning around. And I disagree with all of you. A tense silence filled the room. What do you mean? Robert asked. Victor finally turned to face the group. Have you looked at our social media numbers since yesterday? Victor, we're not talking about numbers, Margaret began. Yes, we are, he cut her off. A 300% increase in engagement, 50,000 new followers, hundreds of positive comments about how human our company feels. He turned on the projector and showed the metrics. For the first time in years, people are talking about Tech Vision as a company that's real, authentic, and down to earth. You think that's a bad thing? But she's Margaret searched for the word. A genuine person? Victor suggested. An employee who's not afraid to be herself? Someone who made the Minister of Finance laugh after spilling champagne on him? She's unprofessional, Robert protested. She's exactly what this company needed, Victor said firmly. Do you know the feedback we got from the gala? People loved our authentic representative. They said we were the first company brave enough to show we're made of real people. Amanda frowned. Victor, you're not thinking of... I'm thinking of promoting her. The silence that followed was deafening. Promoting her? Margaret almost shouted. To public relations. She has a natural gift for connecting with people. Victor, this is madness, Robert said. The board will never approve it. The board will approve it because I'm the CEO, Victor said, his voice carrying an authority he rarely had to use. And if they don't, I'll remind them that our market value rose 2% since yesterday. He turned off the projector and walked toward the door. Meeting's over. Leah Rodriguez stays. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can speak to me directly. That afternoon, Leah was in the elevator coming back from a meeting when someone stepped in at the last second. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw it was Victor. They rode in silence for a few floors, the air thick with tension. Leah clutched the bag holding the mysterious note, trying to decide whether to say something. How was the event yesterday? Victor asked casually, not looking at her. It was interesting, Leah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I think I made a few mistakes. Mistakes? Victor smiled slightly. I heard you were the highlight of the evening. Being known for eating croquettes isn't exactly the kind of highlight a company wants, right? Victor finally looked at her, and Leah felt like he could see straight into her soul. Depends on the company, he said softly. The elevator stopped at her floor. This is my floor, Leah said, but didn't move right away. Leah, Victor said as she was stepping out. Yes, sometimes the best things in life come in unexpected packages. The doors closed before she could reply, leaving her standing in the hallway, her heart pounding like a drum. That night at home, Leah read the note for the 20th time. You have something none of the other 83 had. And for the first time, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, Victor Dalmeda really saw her as more than just a problem employee. What she didn't know was that, on the 47th floor, Victor was standing by the window, wondering exactly when the popcorn vendor had become the most important person in his thoughts. 2 weeks after the mysterious note incident, Amanda showed up at Leah's desk with a look that was part surprise, part resignation. A combination Leah was starting to recognize. Leah, you're going to Orlando, Amanda announced, dropping a folder on her desk. Orlando? You mean like Disney World? Leah asked excitedly. No, a tech conference, Tech Summit 2025. 3 days, 5-star hotel, important presentations. Leah blinked several times. Me? At a tech conference? Amanda, I barely know how to use Excel. Direct orders. You're going with the executive team. Executive team? Leah choked. That includes... Victor Dalmeda, yes. Leah felt her stomach do a double somersault with a twist. I can't go. I don't understand anything about technology. I'll embarrass myself. Too late. Your flight's tomorrow at 7 a.m. At the Miami airport, Leah arrived dragging a suitcase she'd borrowed from her neighbor, wearing the only blazer she owned. When she saw the Tech Vision executive team at the gate, all perfectly dressed with their designer luggage and sleek laptops, she wanted to hide behind a pillar. Leah! Victor waved, and she nearly tripped over her suitcase when she saw him in casual clothes. Jeans, an open-collar dress shirt, hair slightly messy. He looked human. "Hi," she said, still recovering from the shock of seeing him so approachable. On the plane, in what Leah suspected wasn't just a coincidence, her seat turned out to be right next to Victor's. "First time in Orlando?" he asked as they stowed their carry-ons. "First time on a plane," Leah admitted, nervously fastening her seatbelt. "Really?" Victor looked genuinely surprised. "My family never had money for flights. The farthest I've ever been was by bus to Fort Lauderdale." During takeoff, Leah gripped the armrest so tightly her knuckles turned white. Victor noticed. "The first time is always scary," he said gently. "Want me to explain what's happening?" "Yes, please. It feels like we're in a flying sardine can." Victor laughed. A real, honest laugh, not the polished kind executives use. "Technically, you're not wrong." As the flight went on, they began chatting naturally. Victor asked about her life, how she ended up selling popcorn, what her dreams were. Leah, in turn, asked what it was like to run a huge company and whether he'd ever felt as lost as she often did. "All the time," Victor admitted. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending to know what I'm doing, hoping no one finds out." But you're the CEO. You're the boss of everyone. Imposter syndrome. Everyone has it. Even successful people. Especially successful people." Leah studied him curiously. "You're really different from what I expected." "How so?" "More normal. I thought you'd be more arrogant, you know? More, I'm important, get out of my way." Victor smiled. "Sometimes I have to be like that. But it's not who I really am." At the conference, Leah felt completely out of place among the technical presentations and conversations about artificial intelligence and blockchain. But during a panel on humanizing technology, something clicked in her mind. When they opened the floor for questions, Leah raised her hand before she could change her mind. "Yes, the lady in red." The moderator pointed to her. Leah stood up, feeling hundreds of eyes on her. I don't know much about technology," she began, hearing a few muffled laughs. "But I work with people every day. And you know what the problem with technology is these days? It forgets that there's a real person on the other side of the screen." The room went silent. "You build amazing apps, but no one explains to my 70-year-old neighbor how to use them. You make beautiful websites, but my cousin who has dyslexia can't read them. Technology should serve people, not the other way around." When she finished, there was a moment of silence before the applause began. Not polite applause, but real, heartfelt clapping. After the session, a well-dressed man with a European accent approached her. "Sorry to interrupt, but I must say, your comment was brilliant," he said in English. "I'm Hans Müller, CEO of Tech Europe. She is what the real world looks like." Victor, who had watched everything from a distance, felt something stir in his chest. Pride, admiration, and something deeper he wasn't ready to name just yet. That night at the hotel, Victor knocked on Leah's door. "Hi," she said, surprised to see him. "Is something wrong? Can I come in? I need to talk to you." Leah let him in, suddenly very aware that she was wearing casual clothes, a t-shirt and sweatpants, while he still looked perfectly put together. "Leah, what you did today at the conference was extraordinary. I just said what I thought." "Exactly, and it was brilliant." Victor walked to the window, then turned to face her. "I need to tell you something." Leah's heart began to race. "I was the one who asked for you to be called for the interview. I was the one who hired you. And I was the one who left that note on your desk." Leah felt her knees go weak. "You? Since the day you helped me with those papers, since you offered popcorn to a stressed-out stranger, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." He took a step toward her. "It's not just your heart, Leah. It's your mind. The way you see the world. You have an emotional intelligence I've never seen in anyone else." Leah stepped back, suddenly afraid of how intense the moment had become. "Victor, stop. Just stop." "Why?" "Because you're the boss," she blurted out. "You're the multimillionaire CEO, and I'm just the popcorn girl who doesn't even know which salad fork to use." "Leah." "No." She ran to the door. "This is crazy. You'll get tired of playing Cinderella, and I'll be the one left hurt." She opened the door. "I'm going to my room, and tomorrow, let's pretend this conversation never happened." Victor stood in the middle of the room, watching the door close, feeling like a part of him had just walked out too. On the other side of the door, Leah leaned her back against the wall and slid down to the floor, her hands shaking. Because the truth was, she had fallen for him too. And that scared her more than any airplane turbulence ever could. Monday morning after the Orlando conference felt like a ticking time bomb. Leah had barely sat down at her desk when Amanda showed up with a look she'd never seen before. A mix of panic, anger, and something that looked like pity. "Leah, you need to come with me. Now." "Good morning to you too, Amanda. It's serious." Amanda grabbed her arm. "Really serious." They walked quickly through the hallways, and Leah noticed people stop talking as she passed. Strange looks, whispers, people pointing at their phones. Something was definitely wrong. "Amanda, you're scaring me. What's happening?" Amanda stopped in front of the conference room and took a deep breath. "There's an article about you this morning." "An article? About me? Why?" Amanda handed her a tablet. On the screen, the headline made Leah's blood run cold. "Scandal at Tech Vision. Multimillionaire CEO in forbidden romance with unqualified employee." What is this?" Leah stammered, starting to read. The article was harsh and detailed. It said she had been mysteriously hired over 83 qualified candidates, had been promoted without merit, and openly speculated about an intimate relationship between her and Victor. There were even photos of them on the plane, talking and laughing. Who wrote this? A business blog run by Daniel Carvalho. "But the worst part isn't the article," Amanda said, looking physically sick. "It's how they got the information." Amanda opened another file on the tablet. It was a screenshot of an internal email from TechVision with the company's official header. From Victor.Dalmaida@techvision.com to HR@techvision.com. Subject: Special Instructions. Leah Rodriguez. "Amanda, as we discussed, I want you to give special treatment to employee Leah Rodriguez. She has direct access to me and doesn't need to follow standard protocols. Any request from her should be handled immediately. This matter is confidential and personal. Victor Dalmaida, CEO, TechVision Corp." Leah felt the world spinning. "Is that email real?" "No," Amanda said quickly. "Victor never sent it, but someone managed to create a fake email that looks completely real." But how? "Someone with internal access. Someone who knows how our systems work." Leah sank into the chair. "Amanda, I swear to God, there's never been anything between me and Victor. Nothing." "I believe you, Leah, but that doesn't matter now. The article's already been shared thousands of times. The shareholders are furious. The board is in panic." Amanda sat beside her. "Leah, they want you to be removed." "Removed? Fired. Today." The silence that followed was deafening. Leah looked at the article again, seeing her photo next to Victor's under the caption, "A fairy tale turned upside down." "Someone did this on purpose," she whispered. "Someone wants me out." "Looks like it. But who and why?" Amanda shook her head. "I don't know. But whoever did this knows the company well. They had access to our systems, knew about Orlando, got the photos." Leah slowly stood up. "Where's Victor?" "In a meeting with the board, trying to contain the damage." Does he think I did something?" Amanda hesitated. "He's fighting to protect you, Leah. But the pressure is enormous." 2 hours later, Leah was clearing off her desk, putting her few belongings into a cardboard box. Her co-workers avoided her like she had some contagious disease. "Guys," she said to Jennifer and the others pretending to be busy, "you know the article's not true, right?" An awkward silence followed. "Leah," Jennifer finally said, we don't know what to believe anymore." With a broken heart, Leah finished packing and walked out of TechVision for the last time, followed by the curious and judgmental looks of people who, just weeks before, laughed at her jokes. 3 days later, Leah was back on Brickell Avenue. But this time, pushing her old popcorn cart. The wheels still squeaked, the metal still rusted, but something inside her had changed. She felt hurt, betrayed. "Fresh popcorn," she called out without much energy. "Sweet popcorn." Her voice had lost its usual joy. People walked by, some recognizing her from the news and whispering, "That's her, the one from the scandal. Poor thing, maybe she was just used. Or maybe she took advantage." Leah pretended not to hear, but every comment felt like a stab. 47 floors above, Victor was in his office, going over piles of documents with the help of a private investigator he had quietly hired. "Mr. Dalmaida," said James Mitchell, the investigator, "I found something interesting." Victor looked up from the papers. The fake email was sent using a company computer but was masked to look like it came from yours. Whoever did this had advanced technical knowledge and administrative access. That narrows down the suspects to about 12 people. But there's more. James placed a photo on the desk. The photos from the plane. They were taken by someone on the same flight, someone on your team. Victor studied the picture. It was discreet, taken from a distance, but it clearly showed him and Leah laughing together. Who on the team had system access and was on the flight to Orlando? 3 people. Amanda Rodriguez from HR, Robert Tim from Finance, and... James paused dramatically. And Margaret Thompson, Marketing Director. Victor clenched his fists. Margaret, one of the loudest voices calling for Leah's firing. Margaret, who always questioned his decisions. Margaret, who had both the technical knowledge and the access. I need solid proof, James. I'm already working on it. But Mr. Dalmeida. Yes? Why would someone do this? What would the motive be? Victor looked out the window, spotting the small figure of Leah on the sidewalk, pushing her cart. Power, he said simply. Someone saw Leah as a threat to the status quo and decided to take her out. What Victor didn't say was that while investigating who had sabotaged Leah, he had come to a painful realization about himself. He was completely in love with her. And now, because of someone's scheme, he might never get the chance to fix the damage his confession in Orlando had caused. But he was going to find out who did it. And when he did, there would be consequences. 1 week after Leah's dismissal, Victor was still in his office at 11 p.m., surrounded by documents, screenshots, and evidence James Mitchell had carefully collected. The private investigator had been discreet, but effective. And now the pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, filling Victor with a cold, simmering anger. James, are you absolutely sure? Victor asked, scanning the evidence spread across his desk again. Completely sure, Mr. Dalmeida. Margaret Thompson wasn't just involved. She was the mastermind behind everything from the very beginning. James opened his laptop and showed a series of computer logs. Look here. On the day of Leah's interview, Margaret accessed the HR system 17 times. She was monitoring every step of the hiring process. And after that, once Leah was hired, Margaret started documenting every mistake she made. Take a look. James showed a digital folder labeled Project LR. Leah Rodriguez's initials. Margaret had been collecting material to discredit Leah from day one. Photos, recordings of conversations, even comments from coworkers, comments she herself had influenced. Victor felt sick to his stomach. His marketing director had been orchestrating a systematic campaign against an innocent employee. But why James? What was her real motivation? James pulled up another file. I found private emails between Margaret and some outside investors. She was trying to orchestrate your removal from the company, Victor. She wanted your position. My position? She was pushing the story that you'd lost focus, that you were making emotional decisions instead of rational ones. Hiring Leah was the perfect hook for that narrative. Victor stood up and walked to the window. Even at that hour, he could see a small light down at the corner where Leah used to stand with her cart during the day. There's more, Mr. Dalmeida. More? James showed him a series of text messages. Margaret coordinated everything with Daniel Carvalho, the blogger. She fed him the information, and he published the article. In return, he would get exclusive access to the new leadership at Tech Vision once she took over. The new leadership. She really thought she could take me down. She didn't just think it, she nearly did. If you hadn't hired a private investigator, you probably never would have found out. Victor clenched his fists. Margaret Thompson, his marketing director for 5 years, someone he trusted, had destroyed the life of an innocent person purely out of ambition. James, I need you to prepare a full report. Every piece of evidence, every document, every computer log. I want it flawless. For when? Tomorrow morning. I'm calling the board. The next morning, the Tech Vision boardroom was tense. Charles Blackwood, the chairman, had called an emergency meeting at Victor's request. All board members were present, along with Margaret Thompson, who clearly had no idea what was about to happen. Victor, Charles began, you said you had important information about the recent scandal. I do, Victor replied, turning on the projector. Information that's going to shock all of you. Margaret, sitting across the table, kept a neutral expression. but Victor noticed her nervously playing with her pen. Over the past few days, I hired a private investigator to find out how confidential company information was leaked to the press. The first image appeared on the screen, access logs from Margaret's computer. What we uncovered was a systematic scheme carried out by someone inside the company to discredit both the employee Leah Rodriguez and myself. Margaret turned slightly pale, but remained silent. Margaret, Victor turned directly to her. Would you like to explain why you accessed the HR system 127 times over the past 6 weeks? It's part of my job to coordinate with HR on internal campaigns. Is it? Victor clicked to the next slide. And what about this folder labeled Project LR on your computer? Is that a marketing task too? The room fell completely silent. On the screen was a digital folder filled with dozens of files about Leah. Margaret swallowed hard. Victor, I can explain. Please do. Also, explain these emails to Daniel Carvalho, where you shared confidential company information. More evidence appeared on the screen. Email exchanges, text messages, even phone records. Charles Blackwood leaned forward. Margaret, is this true? Margaret looked around the table, seeing the shocked faces of the board members. Her professional mask finally dropped. You don't understand, she burst out. That girl was going to ruin everything we built. She wasn't qualified. She was a joke. A joke you turned into a national scandal, Victor said coldly. She didn't deserve to be here. And you, Margaret pointed at Victor, you've completely lost your mind over a popcorn vendor. The silence that followed was deafening. Charles finally spoke. Margaret Thompson, given the evidence presented, you are hereby terminated from TechVision Corporation effective immediately. Our legal team will be in contact regarding the potential consequences of your actions. Margaret stood up abruptly. You're all going to regret this. That girl will destroy this company. The only person who tried to destroy this company, Victor said calmly, was you. After Margaret was escorted out by security, Charles turned to Victor. And now, how do we fix this mess? Victor smiled for the first time in a week. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to make a proposal that's going to surprise all of you. That afternoon, Leah was at home, watching a show on Netflix and trying not to think about how her life had fallen apart in just a few days, when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Leah Rodriguez? Yes. My name is James Mitchell. I'm calling on behalf of Victor Dalmeida. Do you have a few minutes? Leah almost hung up. If this is about offering me money to stay quiet about something. No, ma'am. It's to show you the truth about what really happened. 20 minutes later, Leah received an email with a video file. It was the full recording of the board meeting, showing all the evidence against Margaret, her confession, and her dismissal. Leah watched it in total shock. Margaret Thompson, the elegant director who always looked down on her, had orchestrated the entire sabotage. When the video ended, her phone rang again. It was Victor. Leah, I watched the video. I'm so sorry for everything. You didn't deserve to go through that. Leah was crying, but they were tears of relief. You found out who did this to me. It was my responsibility. I'm the one who put you in this situation. Victor. Leah, I know I don't have the right to ask this after everything that happened, but would you like to come back? Come back? To TechVision, but not as an assistant. Leah held her breath. As what? As Director of Social Impact, with your own team, your own budget, and the freedom to create that really make a difference in people's lives. There was a long pause. Leah, are you still there? I'm here, she whispered. I'm just trying to take in the fact that you not only found out who sabotaged me, but you're also offering me my dream job. Do you accept? Leah looked out the window of her small apartment, then at the paused video on her screen, showing Victor standing up for her in front of the entire board. I accept, she said, smiling for the first time in a week. Great. You start on Monday. Victor? Yes. Thank you for believing in me, for standing up for me. Always, Leah, always. When they hung up, Leah threw herself on the couch and let out a joyful scream. The truth had finally come out, and her life was about to change all over again. Monday back at TechVision was completely different from anything Leah had imagined. Instead of returning to her old desk on the 45th floor, she was escorted straight to the 46th floor, where an office with a panoramic view of the Miami Bay was waiting for her. Director of Social Impact was written on the gold plaque on the door. Below it, in smaller letters, Leah Rodriguez. "Oh my God," she whispered, touching the plaque as if it were magic. Amanda, who had apologized over and over for what happened the week before, appeared with a genuine smile. "Welcome back, Director Rodriguez." "That sounds so strange," Leah laughed, still in disbelief. "Last week I was selling popcorn. Now I'm a director of something." "Of something very important," Victor said, appearing in the doorway. Leah felt her heart skip a beat. They hadn't seen each other in person since Orlando, since that confession in the hotel that had changed everything. "Victor," she said, trying to keep her voice professional. "Leah, may I come in?" She nodded, and Amanda quietly stepped out, closing the door behind her. "How are you feeling?" he asked, keeping a respectful distance. "Honestly, nervous, excited, confused, all at once." Victor smiled. "That's exactly the right mix to start something groundbreaking." He stepped closer to the desk and placed a thick folder on it. "Your initial budget is $2 million. You can hire up to 10 people for your team, and you have full freedom to create whatever programs you think are needed." Leah opened the folder and nearly fainted when she saw the numbers. $2 million? To start, if the projects succeed, we'll increase it. "Victor, I don't even know where to begin." "Start with what you know, with what touches your heart." In the following weeks, Leah threw herself into research, conversations, and brainstorming. She spent hours in the library, studying social programs from other companies, talked to nonprofits, and visited underserved communities. And it was during one of those visits in a neighborhood in Liberty City that the idea was born. She was talking to young people between 16 and 25 years old when she met Marcus, a 19-year-old who sold homemade sweets on the street to help support his younger siblings. "I have tons of ideas for businesses," Marcus said, showing her a notebook filled with sketches and plans. "But I don't have the money to start. I don't even know how to make a real business plan." "What if someone taught you?" Leah asked. "Who would want to teach someone like me?" That night, Leah came home with her heart on fire and a clear idea in her mind. 3 weeks later, Leah was in the boardroom presenting her proposal to the board of directors. The presentation was called Popcorn Entrepreneurs, Turning Dreams into Business. "The concept is simple," she explained, clicking to the first slide. "We identify talented young people in underserved communities who have business ideas but lack the resources or knowledge to bring them to life." Charles Blackwood leaned forward, clearly interested. "We offer 6 months of intensive mentoring, an entrepreneurship course, support to build a business plan, and for the best projects, an initial investment of up to $50,000. $50,000 per project?" one of the board members asked. "The pilot program will have 20 participants. That means $1 million in direct investments, plus operating costs." Victor, who had been quietly watching, smiled as the next slide appeared. "But here's the revolutionary part," Leah continued. "This isn't charity, it's investment. TechVision becomes a minority partner in each business created. When they succeed, the company succeeds too." "Social investment with financial return," Charles murmured, clearly impressed. "Brilliant." And there's more. We call it the popcorn effect. For every young person we help move out of a vulnerable situation through entrepreneurship, they positively impact at least 5 others: family, friends, community. When Leah finished her presentation, there was silence. Then Charles started clapping. Within seconds, the entire room was on their feet, applauding. "Approved unanimously," Charles declared. "When do we start?" 2 months later, the Popcorn Entrepreneurs program was making national headlines. Marcus's story, he now had a small gourmet candy business selling to restaurants in Miami, had made the cover of Forbes magazine. Other young people in the program were also thriving. Sarah, who created an app to connect housekeepers with clients. Diego, who developed an urban hydroponics system. Anna, who launched a sustainable sewing business. But things truly took off when the program was featured on national news. "This initiative by TechVision is changing the way companies approach social responsibility," said the CNN anchor. "Instead of just donating money, they're building entrepreneurs." The video went viral. #Popcorn Entrepreneurs became a trending topic. Companies around the world started calling, wanting to learn how to replicate the program. The press conference was scheduled for a Friday morning. Leah was nervous. She hated public speaking. But Victor reassured her. Just be yourself. That's what people love about you. The room was packed. Reporters, photographers, executives from other companies, government officials. Leah had never seen so many people gathered to hear her speak. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice slightly shaking. "My name is Leah Rodriguez, and 6 months ago I was selling popcorn on the street." Warm laughter rippled through the crowd. "Today I'm here to talk about how small actions can lead to big changes." For 20 minutes, Leah told stories. Marcus and his sweets, Sarah and her app, every young person who had turned a dream into reality. "This program doesn't work because we have a lot of money," she explained. "It works because we believe everyone deserves a chance. And sometimes that chance comes disguised as someone nobody takes seriously." When she finished, the whole room rose in applause. Leah felt tears well up, of emotion, pride, and pure gratitude. That's when Victor stepped up to the microphone. "If I may," he said, his voice echoing through the now quiet room, "I'd like to say a few words about Director Rodriguez." Leah looked at him, surprised. "A few months ago, we interviewed 83 highly qualified candidates for a position in our company. All had perfect resumes, prestigious degrees, impressive experience." Victor turned to look at Leah. Leah Rodriguez had none of that. But she had something none of the other 83 had. The ability to see opportunities where others see problems. The courage to believe in people society has given up on. The humility to learn and the wisdom to teach. His voice grew stronger. She didn't just stand out among 83 candidates. She stood out in a world obsessed with appearances. A world I was once trapped in. She taught me that real qualification isn't measured by diplomas, but by impact. And her impact has already changed more than 100 lives directly and thousands more indirectly. The room burst into applause again, but Leah could only look at Victor, noticing something in his eyes that made her cheeks flush. Admiration, pride, and something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name in public. When the press conference ended and the reporters left, Leah and Victor were alone in the empty hall. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what? For believing in me, for giving me this chance, for falling in love with you?" Victor asked gently. Leah felt her heart skip a beat. "Victor, I know it's complicated. I know we're boss and employee, but after today, after seeing what you built, I need you to know, I'm completely in love with the extraordinary woman you are." Leah looked at him, the man who had turned her life upside down not once but twice. "And what if I told you I'm in love too?" she whispered. Victor smiled, that same smile she had first seen on the sidewalk when she offered popcorn to a stressed-out stranger. "Then I'd say, maybe it's time we stop pretending this is just business." And for the first time since Orlando, Leah didn't pull away when he came closer, because now she finally knew she deserved to be there. 3 months after the press conference that changed everything, Tech Vision was hosting the most anticipated event of the year. The official opening of the Entrepreneurial Popcorn Center, the first physical space dedicated to Leah's program. The event was being held at the center itself, a renovated building in Wynwood that had once been an abandoned warehouse and now stood shining as a symbol of transformation. 300 guests were expected. Business leaders, politicians, investors, media, and most importantly, the young entrepreneurs whose lives had been touched by the program. Leah was at her apartment, staring at 3 dresses spread across the bed, completely lost. "Mrs. Carmen," she called out to her neighbor, who had become her unofficial fashion advisor. "Help." Mrs. Carmen appeared at the door, now 71 years old and still full of energy. "Girl, you're more nervous than a bride on her wedding day. What's the problem?" "I don't know which dress to wear. It's the launch of my project. There'll be media, important people." "Will Victor be there?" Mrs. Verstrat Carmen asked with a knowing smile. Leah blushed. Over the past few weeks, she and Victor had started dating quietly. Private dinners, weekend walks, long late-night conversations, but always out of view from the company and the press. "He will," she admitted, "and I want to look perfect." "Then wear the blue one," Mrs. Carmen said confidently. "It brings out your eyes when you're happy." The Entrepreneurship Center looked amazing. Soft lighting, modern yet welcoming decor, and everywhere you looked, photos and stories of young people who had changed their lives through the program. Marcus was there, now the owner of a candy business employing 15 people. Sarah had sold her app for $500,000 and was working on her second one. Diego had just signed a contract with the city to supply hydroponic vegetables to public schools. Director Rodriguez. Marcus greeted her with a warm hug. "Did you see my stories on the main wall?" Leah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. The main wall of the center told the story of each entrepreneur, from their first idea to their current success. "You deserve to be there, Marcus. You and all the others." "No, Director. You deserve to be there. Without you, we'd still be dreaming instead of making things happen." As Leah moved through the event, greeting guests and sharing stories from the program, she noticed Victor watching her from a distance. He looked as polished as ever, but there was something different in his eyes, a kind of intensity she couldn't quite read. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host's voice echoed through the space, "we ask that everyone please make their way to the main hall for the official opening ceremony." The main hall was packed. Leah took her seat at the head table, next to Charles Blackwood, the mayor of Miami, and other dignitaries. Victor was seated a few chairs away, but she could feel his eyes on her. "Our first speaker tonight," the host announced, "is the creator and director of the entrepreneurial popcorn program, Leah Rodriguez." Applause filled the hall as Leah stepped up to the podium. She had prepared a technical speech, full of numbers and statistics meant to impress the investors in the room. But when she looked out and saw the faces of the young entrepreneurs, Marcus, Sarah, Diego, Anna, and so many others, she tossed the prepared speech aside. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady and confident. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be standing here today opening an entrepreneurship center, I probably would have handed them some popcorn and told them to find a therapist." Light laughter spread through the room. "But the truth is, we're all here tonight because we believe in one simple thing. Everyone deserves a chance. And sometimes that chance comes from the most unexpected place." She spoke for 15 minutes, sharing personal stories, talking about dreams, making people laugh and cry. When she finished, the entire room stood for a 3-minute standing ovation. "Thank you," she said, walking back to the head table. But the host stopped her. "My apologies, Director Rodriguez, but the CEO of Tech Vision, Mr. Victor Dalmaida, would like to say a few words." Leah looked surprised. This wasn't on the schedule. Victor stood up and walked to the podium, holding a golden envelope and a small blue velvet box that made Leah's heart stop. "Thank you," Victor said, his voice echoing through the quiet hall. "I hadn't planned to speak today, but after hearing Leah, I realized there are some things that need to be said. In public." He looked straight at her. "Leah, you said that everyone deserves a chance. But what you didn't say is that you gave all of us a chance too. You taught us that business isn't just about profit, it's about purpose." Victor opened the golden envelope. "That's why, on behalf of Tech Vision Corporation, I'd like to announce the first sponsorship contract for the Popcorn Entrepreneurs Program. $5 million over the next 3 years, ensuring that 500 more young people get the chance to turn their dreams into reality." The hall erupted in applause, but Victor raised his hand, asking for silence. "But there's something even more important I need to say." He picked up the small velvet box and walked over to where Leah was sitting, completely stunned. "Leah Rodriguez," he said, kneeling down in front of the whole audience. "A few months ago, you were one of 83 candidates for a job at my company. Today, you're not only the best employee I've ever had, you're the woman who completely changed my life." Leah felt tears start to roll down her cheeks. "Of all the women I've met, of all the possibilities life has given me, I chose you. And it wasn't out of pity, it wasn't charity, and it wasn't on impulse." Victor opened the box, revealing a diamond ring that sparkled under the lights of the hall. "It was because of what you taught me that real love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be a better person every single day." The hall was completely silent. 300 people held their breath. "Leah Rodriguez, will you marry me?" Leah looked at him. The man who had turned her life from a popcorn vendor into a director of social programs, who had stood up for her when no one else did. who fell in love not with her looks but with her soul. "Victor," she whispered, then cleared her throat and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "When I offered popcorn to a stressed-out stranger on the sidewalk, I never imagined I was offering my heart too." She stood up, and so did he. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and steady. "Yes, I'll marry you." The hall exploded. Applause, cheers, people standing, photographers flashing their cameras. Victor placed the ring on Leah's finger and kissed her, right there in front of everyone. When they pulled apart, Leah saw tears in his eyes too. "I love you," he whispered in her ear. "I love you too," she replied. Among the cheering crowd, Leah noticed familiar faces. Charles Blackwood quietly wiping his glasses. Amanda crying tears of joy. The young entrepreneurs cheering like they were family. And at the back of the room, she even saw a few of the executives who had once doubted her, now clapping genuinely. "I think we got their approval," Victor joked, glancing at the crowd celebrating around them. "I think so," Leah laughed, looking at the ring on her finger. "But are you sure? I'm still the girl who spilled water during her job interview." "You're the woman who transformed an entire company with love and determination," Victor said, holding her face in his hands. "And I couldn't be prouder to be your future husband." As the celebration continued around them, Leah thought about how funny life could be. Just a year ago, she was on a sidewalk selling popcorn, dreaming of a better life. Now, she was engaged to the man of her dreams, leading a program that was changing lives. Surrounded by people who loved her just the way she was. 6 months after the marriage proposal that had made national headlines, Leah was standing in the garden of the house she and Victor had bought together in Coral Gables, admiring a very special piece that held a place of honor near the pool. Her old popcorn cart. But it wasn't the rusty, noisy cart from before. It was completely restored, painted in a vibrant blue with golden details, and a bronze plaque read, "Where it all began, national symbol of the Popcorn Entrepreneurs Project." "I still can't believe they turned my old little cart into a national monument," Leah laughed, gently running her hand along the restored side. Victor came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her. "That cart changed more lives than any piece of technology I've ever created," he said, kissing the top of her head. "It deserves to be in every museum in the country." It was true. The Popcorn Entrepreneurs Program had become a national phenomenon. Other companies had copied the model. Universities created courses based on Leah's method, and the federal government officially adopted the popcorn cart as the symbol of the national campaign for women's entrepreneurship. "How was the meeting with Nike today?" Leah asked, turning in his arms. "They want to sponsor 50 carts in the new West Coast expansion." Victor smiled. "And Apple is calling tomorrow to discuss the tech partnership." In the past few months, Leah and Victor had become a powerful duo, not just in love, but in business too. She handled the human and social side of the projects, and he made sure everything was financially and technologically sustainable. Together, they had turned Tech Vision into the most admired company in the U.S. for social responsibility. "And how was your presentation at the UN?" Victor asked. "Amazing. 15 countries want to launch the program." "Can you imagine, Victor? Young people from Ghana, Brazil, the Philippines, all getting the same chance that Marcus and Sarah had." They walked hand in hand out to the balcony, where the table was set for the romantic dinner that had become their Friday night tradition. "Leah," Victor said, suddenly stopping, "there's something I need to ask you." She looked at him, curious. "What is it?" "Are you sure you want to marry me?" he asked, and there was real vulnerability in his voice. "I mean, your life has changed so much. You've become a global figure. You get invited to speak all over the world. You could have anyone you want." Leah looked at him for a long moment, then started laughing. "Victor Dalmeida, are you jealous of my fame?" "Maybe just a little," he admitted, blushing. "You silly man," she said, pulling him closer. "Do you really think I've forgotten who stood by me when no one else believed? Who defended me when I was being sabotaged? Who saw potential in me when I couldn't even see it myself?" She kissed him gently. "I love you, Victor. Not the CEO, not the millionaire. You, the man who laughs at my bad jokes and supports all my crazy dreams." 3 weeks later, on a sunny Saturday morning, the beach at Key Biscayne was set up for the most anticipated wedding in Miami. But it wasn't the grand event people expected. Leah insisted on something simple and intimate, only with the people who truly mattered. 50 guests were present, family, close friends, and all the original young entrepreneurs from the program. Marcus was one of the groomsmen. Sarah was one of the bridesmaids. Charles Blackwood officiated the ceremony as a justice of the peace. Leah walked barefoot on the sand, wearing a simple but elegant dress that Donna Carmen had helped her choose. In her hands, a bouquet of wildflowers mixed with popcorn kernels. Only you would put popcorn in a wedding bouquet. Her sister Anna had laughed that morning. "It's my trademark," Leah had replied with a shrug. When she reached the small altar in the sand, Victor was waiting, with tears in his eyes and a smile that lit up the entire beach. "You look beautiful," he whispered as she stepped beside him. "You don't look too bad yourself," she teased, making the guests around them laugh. The ceremony was perfect in its simplicity. Personal vows, emotional tears, laughter when Leah nearly tripped on her own shadow in the sand. "Victor," she said during her vows, looking straight into his eyes, "you taught me that true love isn't about deserving someone. It's about growing with them every single day." "Leah," Victor replied, his voice filled with emotion, "you showed me that success isn't measured in dollars, but in lives touched, and you've touched not only mine, but hundreds of others." When Charles finally said, "You may kiss the bride," the beach erupted in cheers. Fireworks lit up the sky, musicians played, and everyone danced on the sand until the sun went down. During the celebration, as Victor danced with his new wife, Leah looked around and saw all the faces that had become part of her journey. Marcus was deep in conversation with an investor about his next expansion. Sarah was showing photos of her new app to some guests. Donna Carmen was dancing with Charles Blackwood, the two of them laughing like teenagers. "What are you thinking about?" Victor asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. Leah leaned in closer, breathing in the scent that had become so familiar. "I'm thinking how funny life is," she whispered. 2 years ago, I was just a girl selling popcorn on the street, dreaming of a better life. And now I'm married to the man of my dreams, running a program that's changing lives all over the world, and I have a chosen family that loves me exactly as I am." She looked into his eyes, tears of pure happiness streaming down her face. "I just offered popcorn to a stressed-out stranger, and I got the whole world in return." Victor smiled, that same smile that had won her heart the very first time, back on the sidewalk of Brickell Avenue. "No, my love," he said, gently kissing her. "You gave much more than popcorn. You gave kindness, generosity, and genuine love, and the whole world saw it." As they danced under the stars with the sound of the waves in the background and surrounded by people who loved them, Leah thought that maybe fairy tales really did exist. What did you think of Leah and Victor's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. How would you rate this story from 0 to 10? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories, and click here at the end of the video to watch more inspiring stories.